It is January 24th, and this is another episode of Let There Be Talk, brought to you by my podcast network, cactusradionetwork.com. You can get all of the podcasts you want to hear right on that website, free. At Home with Byron Katie, Dark Fonzie, The Grail, and Let There Be Talk. Go to the website, cactusradionetwork.com. And speaking of websites, all of my tour dates are at deandelray.com, and you can find the merch also there. We've got some great merch up, so check it out, deandelray.com. And my Patreon is patreon.com/deandelray, and there you can find over 130 bonus episodes of Let There Be Talk and a weekly Zoom. So check it out, all of that. That being said, let's get into it. Who is the guest today? Talk about a kick-ass guest. I got to tell you, over the years, I've gotten to talk to bands that I grew up listening to and was always blown away by their songwriting. Of course, you've got the big bands back then of AC/DC and Van Halen and all of those radio kings. But then there were these other bands that were right there at the same level, killing it with massive hit songs. Case in point would be, Styx, REO Speedwagon, Kansas, Billy Squier. There were these bands that I absolutely loved. Huey Lewis, one of the biggest records of all time, of course, sports. They were right there at the same level as these other bands, and they meant the same to me because I loved their songs. Rockin' fucking bands, and one of the leaders of that was Loverboy. It came out in 1980 with their debut record, Loverboy. Just smashed it out of the gate. Nobody heard of Loverboy. They're from Canada. They just hit the radio. Immediately turned me loose. The Kid Is Hot Tonight. Everybody bought this record. You get into the deep tracks of it, and it's really kick-ass. Teenage Overdose, DOA, Prissy, smoking debut record. They tour their asses off for 200 dates. They come right back with the next record, smashing it even more. Get Lucky. Just a handful of hits on that. Working for the Weekend. When It's Over. Oh, I love that one. Lucky Ones. Take Me to the Top. One of the greatest Loverboy songs. Then they put another record out. And another. Just 4 in a row. Smashing it. Radio hits. From 1980, they go from opening to 83. They're headlining all over America with Joan Jett opening for them and all kinds of other great bands. And that was led by just the Kings, Mike Reno and Paul Dean, a songwriting badass duo. My guest today is Mike Reno, vocalist, singer, songwriter, 40-something years in the game. Just wow, man. Wow. To talk to him was so good. Check out their greatest hits record, man. It'll just knock you out. 16 songs of just, you're getting your money's worth there. It was great to talk to this man, and they're going out on tour with REO Speedwagon and Styx this summer. It's going to be nothing but hit songs. Nothing but hit songs. It's just one after another. Just each band delivering a clinic in songwriting. Do not miss it. Also, check out Loverboy's brand new single out right now called Release. It's on all the streaming platforms. And I think you're going to dig this episode. Mike Reno, just great episode. Funny, cool guy. And thanks for doing the show, Mike. I do want to tell you guys, I've got some new tour dates coming up. So get those tickets, please. I will be in Campbell. I will be in Las Vegas. I'm doing Fort Collins in Colorado. Lots of tour dates there on the website. And I guess that is about it. Hold on, let me check real quick before I sign out of here. Oh, yeah, I forgot. I've got some brand new cool Patreoners. Let's give them some shout outs. It is Patrick King, Chris Von Shamir, Rob Verville, Elisa Sheehan. There you go. New Patreoners. Very cool. Very cool. Hope you guys had a great weekend. I don't usually watch football, but wow. Nutty games this weekend. 49ers. Could be one of the coolest football games I ever saw since the classic old Montana days. And then yesterday, crazy game with the Bills in Kansas City. Wow. Rams. All these games were nuts. I just happened to be sitting around like, fuck it. Let's check them out. And I'm glad I did. I don't usually talk about sports or football, but it was nice to kind of get my head away from comedy for a minute. That's the best advice Bill Burr ever gave me. Get out there and live your life so you have shit to joke about, and don't just be comedy 24/7 or you'll just talk about the same shit. So yeah, it was good. Hope you guys are healthy. Hope you guys are rocking. Thank you for your support. Please leave a review on iTunes and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Candles are definitely lit. Here he is, Mr. Mike Reno. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, man. I first saw Loverboy in 1982. Oakland, Day in the Green, Iron Maiden, Scorpions, Loverboy, Foreigner. Unbelievable.
What a great day that was, huh? Those Day on the Greens were amazing.
They were just next level. And it's funny to think about if you look at what was going on that landscape of music. You know, that's Maiden on Number of the Beast. That's Scorpions Blackout. That's your debut album. And then Foreigner 4. And what I found interesting over the years of thinking back to that time, where there were these bands like Loverboy, Eric Martin, Billy Squier, Night Ranger, that would play with metal or new wave or anything, and it just slid right in there.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It was one of those things. A lot of times when we were running up against, like if we were playing with Van Halen or something, we always used to think maybe we're going to be a little too light for this crowd. And we also used to think that when we played with ZZ Top that, you know, I don't know if this is the right crowd for us. But somehow we just blended in and everybody had a great time. So we got lucky.
Yeah, I mean, it also comes down to hit songs, because I think that people will give you the benefit of the doubt and like, oh, I know this song, I'm gonna check them out, you know, and then they'll get into it. If you had no songs, they'd be like, boo, back then, throwing quarters and stuff.
Yeah, no, I hear you. It was always a risk. Right off the bat, when we came up with the name Loverboy, I thought we were going to get the shit kicked out of us, but we didn't. You know, we didn't. Thank God.
You know, it's really wild to look at your career. I saw you many times. Day in the Green being the first, the next time opening for Journey at the Calp House, the next time you were headlining at the Calp House with Joan Jett. This is a period of 3 years. You guys skyrocket. And also only a band for about 6 months, really, before you open for Kiss on the Dynasty tour and then record your debut record. It's crazy.
No, we started out kind of shaky. Well, we wrote songs for a few years. Paul and I kind of got together, and maybe in a year and a half, we were writing songs, and we were trying at that time to pick out band members that we thought would go the long haul. And when we played for Kiss, it was because the group that was supposed to play with Kiss didn't get in the country. It was in Vancouver, and it was the New York Dolls. And I think for some reason they got turned down entry to the country. You know, I can probably imagine why. But anyway, so we got a call in the afternoon and it said, get the guys together. You're doing a show in the Coliseum tonight, warming up Kiss. And we just went, what? We don't even have a bass player. So a friend of ours was the bass player for April Wine. And so we asked him if he would fill in for us. And he says, I don't even know the songs. He goes, well, we'll have a quick little rehearsal here at Soundcheck, and then we'll play this. And I remember when Turn Me Loose started with the keyboards and the drums. And the next thing was the bass. And he's looking over at me like deer in the headlights. Like, what do I do next? And I walked over to him casually, like in his ear, I went, doom, 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 doom. And he goes, oh yeah, it's that one.
It's wild to listen to the first record because the songwriting is kind of all over the board. You know, you have the hits, but then you get into like Little Girl that could easily be a Devo era song. It's almost Devo.
I hear you. You know, we actually kind of purposely were looking to see which of the three or four styles took off. You know what? We kind of knew we played some regular rock, then we played some rockabilly, then we got some punk in there, and then we got some weird stuff. I mean, I totally understand what you're saying. At the time, those are the songs that made the cut. And when I think back now, I don't even know if we planned it that way, but when you throw out three different styles, one of them's got to hit the wall and catch, right? So that's the way we were thinking.
Yeah. Yeah. I never really thought about it. And I've owned these records for years, but as I dove into them this week, I was like, by the time I'm into the middle of the debut record, I'm like, well, this is a totally different band. And then you get to like Prissy and DOA and stuff and Teenage Overdose. You're like, now this is a totally different band. It's why I didn't notice it when I was young.
Yeah, there was some heavy stuff in there. There was some funk. Yeah. Some good funky stuff, some good heavy stuff. There was a real mixture of weird stuff in there. I totally agree with you. The first album was very eclectic.
Fantastic album cover on that first record. I really like it. It looks like something Jim Carroll or somebody would do. It's just really kind of arty, which was, compared to the next record, which is what you would think of a record cover, leather pants, that first one was just fantastic. The look of it. And that record, 3 million it sells, right?
Right off the bat. It was crazy. You know what? People are still buying the damn thing today, which is awesome. You know, the artist took a Polaroid picture of herself. I think her name was Barbara Assman. And what she did is she took a Polaroid picture with, if you look down, her hand is using one of those plungers. So she plunged the picture of herself. And then when you take the Polaroids out of the thing, you have to wait for a while and then open it. Well, so before she opened it, she typed the words to the song Little Girl across the whole photograph, and then waited for the minute and then ripped it open. I thought that was very creative. I totally agree with you. That was one of my favorite record covers as well.
And look at the debut who did the record and what they ended up doing later in their careers. Bruce and Bob Rock. You know, these guys are the kings of Canada, basically. But the records they did in their career are unbelievable. Now, how do you hook up with them? Because I know you were shopping, trying to get a deal, and you're only like together like a year, right? And you're trying to get a deal. No one's giving you a deal. Then you get one in Canada on CBS Columbia. And then you go in the studio with them. And they were basically kind of unknown back then, right?
Well, Bob Rock and Bruce Fairbairn and Mike Fraser, for that matter.
Oh, Mike Fraser. Wow.
Yeah. Can't forget him. He was the guy setting up microphones and tweaking the amps and getting coffee and sleeping under the board at night. He didn't have a place to live, I don't think. Great guy. And now he's doing AC/DC album. Yeah. And then Bob Rock, of course, is producing everybody under the sun, from Michael Bublé, Jan Arden to Metallica and whatever. And then there was Aerosmith and Motley Crue and all these groups that came to Vancouver. You know what it was? It was Bruce Fairbairn's one of his first projects. And he was actually a horn player and became a producer. And the first album he produced was a group called Prism. I don't know if you remember Prism.
No.
That's something you might want to look up because it's really a great album. And it was also co-written by a guy, but he used a pseudonym, but it was Jim Valance, who was a writer with with Bryan Adams for many years.
Right.
I think he used the name Rodney Higgs. And so you should try to remember this, because when you look it up, it's going to be Bruce Fairbairn and Rodney Higgs. They wrote and produced the whole record. It's a fantastic record. I think if it was released in the States, it would have been a huge record. And then time went by, and the guy from Columbia, Jeff Burns, who just had a birthday yesterday. Happy birthday, Jeff. And he saw what we saw. He said, I'm going to give you a skeleton budget. You guys go on a record. And we got Bruce Fairbairn and Bob Rock, who was in a band called the Payolas at the time.
Yep.
He was a guitar player and songwriter. He was getting into engineering just for some extra money. I mean, that's really how it started. And Fraser was just a music lover with long hair and no place to live. And he became the second engineer. You know what I mean? It was really kind of thrown together like that. And I bet if you talk to those guys, they'd say the same thing. We all started together and we all kind of went up the rung together. It was a beautiful thing.
It's really incredible, the songwriting chemistry that you and Paul Dean had, because out of the first 3-4 records, it's unreal. Each one had between 2 and 4 hits. And, you're at the time, I would say, like the Cars, you didn't have any piss tracks. You go see a concert and you're like, I got to take a piss. But I love this song. It's unreal. Also the work ethic, because you put the record out, you go out, you do 200 shows, you're touring all over the place, opening for everybody, every type of band that was hot at the time. And then you come back to the next record, same thing. And then the next record, it had to be a grind. And also really kind of a shocker to you as a singer, because I sang for years. Once you're up doing 200 shows, your voice had to start being like, wow, man, I need a rest, right?
Well, the trick I learned very quickly in this music business is to not go too crazy in the party. Yeah. You only have to do that a couple times before you realize that, okay, that guitar player could probably do it. The drummer could probably do it, but the singer can't do it night after night if you're going to go shit-ass crazy every night. So you got to be very careful. And so that's kind of what I tried to take it a bit easy, started off. I found with my voice, the more I sang, the better it seemed to get, which is not the same for everybody. A lot of people get worn out, and mine just seemed to get stronger. And I don't know why. It just did. And I thank my lucky stars for it. But because we did, right after we came back from the first touring the first album, we only waited 4 or 5 days before we went back in the studio and started cutting our second album. So we were on fire. I mean, we were really lubed up and ready to roll.
Were you writing those songs on the tour bus and sound checks?
Yeah. Actually, the first season we toured, we were in a station wagon and a Cadillac.
Whoa, really? On the debut record?
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Yeah. We were really huffing it, and we'd take turns driving. We had a station wagon in case somebody wanted to lie down in the back,
When you guys released the second record, you go out and you tour with Journey, which at that time, Journey, there was no bigger. I remember at my school, every girl wanted to go see Journey Loverboy. It was like Cow Palace, Journey Loverboy. That was the bill for, that's the crossover. When you have crushing ballads like Journey, Loverboy, Bon Jovi, you're going to cross over so fierce, and it goes to another level, right?
Well, Journey had their biggest album ever, Escape. Loverboy had their biggest album so far, Get Lucky. And I understand what you just said was probably very true for a lot of cities across America and Canada, for that matter. That was the biggest tour of the year. And I'll tell you what, man, I was a huge Steve Perry fan. Even before Steve Perry, I was a huge Steve Walsh fan. Steve Walsh and Kansas were on the. I know we moved on to the second album, but during the first tour, we ended up doing 8 months with Kansas, and Kansas were fantastic. The music was very, very deep. Very orchestral. The singing was amazing. I used to stand side stage and look up at Steve Walsh and go, "Holy Christ, that's Steve Walsh!" I was a big fan, and so. I remember and then we got on a tour with ZZ Top, and who doesn't love ZZ Top, right?
Oh my God. They're huge at that time. Eliminator, right?
Of course. So everything happened to us. It was just, I tell people, and I'm really honest about this. I say a lot of hard work, sweat, traveling goes into it. You have to be able to know how to write songs, but you also have to be lucky. There's a whole bunch of this is all luck and timing. You came out just at the, when we first started, we did 3 songs from the first album on and handed it to MTV the first week they were open. Give me a break, right?
Yeah, right.
How lucky was that? Yeah, they played us solidly just because it was a 24-hour music channel and they didn't have a lot of video. They just kept playing this over and over again, made us kind of famous, right? A lot of that stuff just happened. It was just timing and luck.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kansas, holy shit, man, point of no return, those records, it's funny to think about Styx, Kansas, REO Speedwagon, these bands that just had deep, deep, deep hits years, especially Styx, man. Whoa, you know?
I know. No, I know. That's why when we were asked to do, you heard about this tour, right?
Yeah.
Coming up, starting really at the end of May, but and then June, it's just like almost every night for 3-4 months, we're going to be out on the road, back in the tour buses. I'd push you, screw. God, my heart is just, I'm already starting to practice for it. Just bought a new mixer so I can run my show, just, get ready for it. It's going to be night after night. But these are bands that I love. And the guys in Styx and the guys in REO, they actually asked for us. They got contact with Live Nations and said, we would like Loverboy. We played together for years, and it was a real honor to have them ask for us to join that tour. So we really, once again, very lucky, very lucky.
Yeah. What was that Journey tour like? Were you picking Steve Perry's brain on vocal techniques or any kind of stuff, or were you just staying out of his head? Because they were monstrous back then. And of course, Neil and then Jonathan Cain. Were you hanging with him a lot, or what was going on there? Because I know you became friends with Jonathan Cain and co-wrote one of the biggest songs you ever did. But what was that like?
We would hang out with the other guys. Steve was pretty quiet, and I don't blame him. I learned something a lot. I learned a lot from Steve watching him. But we didn't hang out. We really didn't hang out at all. And I learned that he's quiet during the day. And then he just basically, he's on fire at night. And he's quiet for another whole day. And then the night he's just on fire. I learned that people say, well, how do I keep my voice in shape? I do the Steve Perry where I don't talk much during the day. I stay quiet. I talk softly, if at all. And then at night, I just blast away and give her. And then I give myself 24 hours to kind of get back into the groove. So, but Steve Perry was kind of a bit of a loner on that tour. But I hung out with Neil Sean a lot. That guy's a hell of a party.
Oh, yeah, he is. Yeah, I love him, man. He's king of the party. I love that. That guy doesn't stop. He is rock and roll, that guy.
I think he was born with a guitar in his hands,
I know. I love that early Journey where they're kind of proggy, Journey Next and those stuff. And Greg Raleigh the Infinity record with Greg Raleigh and Steve singing is just mind boggling.
Yeah, no, I totally love it. I've always loved those guys. And that was kind of I think it was a match made in heaven through basically management, but more than that, record company. We were both with Columbia Records. And after we sold a few million records, of course, we were handled by New York rather than Toronto.
Yeah.
So the initial signing was Toronto, even though we were a West Coast band. When we started selling 1 million records at a time, New York picked us up in a second. And then next thing you know, we're sitting in the big black tower in Manhattan talking to the chief. And it was interesting times.
Wow. Now, when you start out and you go and record this record, are you with just no management, or do you land some super Peter Grant type of guy? Because it seemed like your career, of course, you sold 3 million records on the debut, but people need to know how to make those moves, how to get it on the radio, because you're on Canadian CBS. You're not on US, so the muscle is different. Who was your manager, and how did this happen? Did you have a friend in the biz?
Do you remember Buckman Turner Overdrive? BTO?
Absolutely.
Well, do you remember how they just did record after record and they became hugely famous? Well, the guy who managed BTO was Bruce Allen, and Bruce Allen had an office all set up. He had the big machine going, and when BTO decided they wanted to kind of cool it for a while, Loverboy jumped right into that frying pan. And he took care of us the whole way. And he's handling, he handles Bryan Adams. He handles Michael Bublé. I mean, the guy knows what he's doing.
Wow. So he was your manager for the first 4 records or all the way through until you broke up the first time?
All the way through. And there wasn't really a breakup. What happened in the early 90s is radio decided to stop playing groups like Cheap Trick, Loverboy, Journey, Foreigner, REO Speedwagon and Styx, and all of the people we know, because they just thought it was all about grunge, and Seattle took over, and then radio stations stopped playing it, so there was no radio airplay. then record companies decided we're not going to put any more records out by these guys unless they pay for it themselves, and we're not going to handle them, or we're not going to distribute them. It was crazy time. And when that happened, Paul and I just said, well, let's, piss on these guys. We've been working like dogs for years. Why don't we just take a couple of years to just show the kids how to go fishing, Yeah. Just hang out at the house, drive one of the motorcycles or something, do something rather than being in a tour bus. Let's just stay at home. So it wasn't really a breakup. It was just taking a rest. And what came out of that was country music just flourished because all the rock, all the roadies and the guys who weren't playing rock anymore went to country bands. That's why the country bands started sounding like rock bands.
Even their stages went to the country bands. All of a sudden you're like, wait, that's Bon Jovi's stage from the New Jersey tour. They're flying out under the ground,
Exactly. And so you know what I mean? And another thing that was created, which is here today, and thank God, is classic rock radio. Yeah. That's what came out of that whole 2 years off.
When you're, by the time you're on 11 Every Minute of It, which would be your fourth record, I know that you had hits every record, but was the record company getting in there like, we need some more hits, outside writers? Because you guys were hit machines. Were they coming at you with crazy pressure?
Well, at the time when we were doing that album, pressure was, pretty crazy. That they demand, the record company demanded some stuff that they wanted certain things. We actually made one whole record we sent in, and they refused the whole record. Said that it sounds too much like you guys. And we looked at each other and says, well, what the fuck does that mean? It sounds too much like you guys. So we just we reformed it. We actually wanted to use Fairbairn and Rock again, but they were both busy. So we ended up using Tom Allom from Judas Priest. Yeah, when we got near the finish of that record, management and Tom Allom and the whole band really said we could use one more hit. And Bruce Allen says, I've been hanging out with Mutt Lange because Mutt Lange and Bruce or Bryan Adams have been hanging out together, doing some writing and stuff. So I'm going to ask him if he's got any songs. And the next day he called it in. Now, the way he called it in is great because this is before email. This is before cell phones. This is before a lot of this high-tech shit that we take for granted nowadays. So what he did is he played this. He held the phone up in his studio and played us Loving Every Minute of It. We recorded it with one of those little memo recorders, a dictaphone type deal, just holding it to the telephone. And then next thing you know, we sat down and we listened to this thing and we picked it apart and everybody ran out and we just played the song. And that became the title of the album. It became a big hit for us. We play it live every night. Great song. Thank you, Mr. Mutt Lange.
Wow. So he was the sole writer of that one?
Yes, sir.
Oh, man. I never even knew that. Mutt Lange, what a god that guy is, right? I mean,
he's total rock god. Did he do anything for Def Leppard, do you think? I don't know. Never got to think about it.
I tell you what, man, you guys did the Def Leppard tour when they were humongous and did the Wembley run and the Europe run and stuff. How is that, man? Because that's just massive. Oh, here's Loverboy over there at the biggest,
That was a bit tenuous. We had to kind of put up with a little bit of crap. We weren't used to Europe, but we did it. We had a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. I like Europe. The deal was everything's just a tiny bit different over there. You know what I'm saying? The hotels are different. The tour buses are different. The stage is different. Backstage is different. The highways are different. Sometimes you're riding on this side of the road. Sometimes you're riding on that side of the road. The whole thing was different, but it was a total experience. And we became really good friends with these guys. Def Leppard are still friends of ours today.
Just unreal. That wave of Loverboy, if you look at all the bands and all the records that were sold, it is insane the amount of record sales back then. And then videos like the $1 million video and all that comedy,
Do you know a lot of the video guys that we use, like the directors from the videos, are now producing like 007 movies and stuff. Yeah, David Fincher, he was one of these guys. We did the Queen of the Broken Hearts with him. And I remember that we had to get out to the Mojave Desert and it was really hot. You can imagine, right? And so we ended up helicoptering. And now imagine, I think back how much all this shit costs. And like you just mentioned, the $1 million videos. And then the record companies didn't mind throwing the money at you because they were going to take the money right back as soon as the records start selling. They're worse than the mafia, for Christ's sakes.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. They are the mafia. Did you sign away your publishing, or did you get ripped off, or are you guys doing well? Because Turn Me Loose and these songs are played at any NFL game and all the sporting events and everything. How did that go for you?
Well, we had a good manager, like we talked about earlier, in Bruce Allen, and he cut us a deal with CBS or Columbia. And we basically got the same deal Michael Jackson got, which was really insane. Yeah. So we ended up having to give away a part of our publishing, but we retained a majority of it. And it's to this day, it's been a good arrangement with them because Sony Music, who bought CBS at Columbia, they've ended up really pitching our stuff for all those things, because a lot of sitcoms are using some of our stuff now, and a lot of commercials are using them. So it's been a great arrangement all the way along, and we didn't get ripped off. I know a lot of bands did, and it's kind of sad, but luckily it wasn't us. So we're all doing pretty fine. We're fine.
Where do you stand on? I know most people now are selling their catalogs because Bruce and Dylan and Stevie Nicks and everybody, because there's just, they're getting older, and who knows what's going to happen later on down the line in the music world 10 years from now. How do you collect money or what? I don't know. Everybody wants everything free. So are you at a point where you could sell the roster?
Absolutely. We've been approached a bunch of times. And Paul and I, who have the majority of the songwriting, basically, we both are on the same page. We don't mind getting nice yearly money coming in. You get the big money coming in, and the tax man jumps on you right off the bat, takes 50%. I don't want that. I just as soon take a nice little trickle type. It's just nice. It's nice to get the mailbox money, as we call it.
Yeah, yeah.
For now, we're going to keep it the way we are. People approach us quite often, and they make us substantial offers. Maybe in a few years we'll rethink it,
Yeah, yeah. Now we got the tour coming up. What a great bill. Styx, REO Speedwagon, Loverboy. When does this start up? It comes up in May, right? And goes through the summer?
May 31st at Grand Rapids. I'm just looking at this. This is just one page.
Wow.
So it starts in basically the May 31st in let me say, it would be Grand Rapids. Then we go to basically Cleveland. Then we go to St. Louis. And then we go to Chicago. Then we go to Milwaukee. Then we go to Detroit, and just on and on. Cincinnati, Kansas, Tampa, and then West Palm. And then we move over and do the West Coast. And it's just insane. It's just insane. My wife is going, "Are you sure you're going to be okay with this tour?" Like, we are definitely back in the tour bus, right?
Right.
And that's going to take a little getting used to. I don't know if you know about tour buses, but you basically shake like this for about 8 hours, no matter how nice the fucking bus is. So if you're reading a book, you're reading it like this for like 8 hours, and you're shaking in bed. And anyways, I'm looking forward to it, though.
It's funny. I had Tommy Shaw on, and he's talking about the problems of touring during COVID. And one of them was none of the bus drivers wanted to get vaxxed. So there was no bus drivers. It's all new bus drivers. And Tommy's like, we don't want to ride with a guy who's just started driving. So they said they had to start flying like commercial, so there's all these different weird hurdles of COVID, not just getting sick, but everything, it's a wild world out there right now.
I'm hoping by June, everything's calmed down. And you know what? When you get to a venue, there's 3 bands. So let's say there's 15 or 16 musicians. There's about 20 roadies with the bands, and there's about 10 or 15 people that work the venue. There's a lot of people backstage. And if some idiot comes to work and gets everybody sick, then that whole tour comes to a stop. And we all know that. Apparently what they're doing now, especially with Live Nations, is they're testing everybody all day. Before you even get to come in, you have to do a quick rapid test to see if you got anything. But you know what that can do? The bass player for any one of these bands, or the singer or the drummer, if he's tested, then he's not coming in. He's not doing the show. Like, I don't even know how you're going to do this. This COVID thing has really been aggravating and really pissing everybody off. And it's totally a problem. I agree.
I was talking to a high profile musician, and he's going out on a big tour this summer. And he said what they were going to do behind the scenes was have different musicians in the other bands learn the other people's sets. So if the bass player is down in REO Speedwagon, maybe the Loverboy bass player plays the set, you know, and like total NBA substitution. Time out. We got a guy down.
Wow. That's not a bad idea. It's a lot of extra work, but it's not a bad idea.
Yeah. Yeah. And you might see weird shows like, holy shit, I saw Mike Reno sing for Styx. Like back when Rob Halford sang with Sabbath, one date. It was just wild.
You know what? I'd have to learn all the songs. Hopefully they got teleprompters, because lyrics are the one thing. I know my own lyrics. I know like 20 Loverboy songs. And after that, I'm a little bit of an idiot with regards to knowing all the words. But you know what? That's an interesting perspective. Thank you.
Yeah, I do think it's kind of a cool idea, because the tour is not canceled and people might be disappointed. Like, oh man, I didn't get to see such and such. But you know what we did see? We saw Klaus Meine from the Scorpions, sing for Iron Maiden. You're just like, what? I mean, it's just a crazy world, because no one will insure bands for COVID now. So if it goes down, it's a complete loss.
Yeah, it's a bit of a train wreck right now. I'm thinking by June, but we've been saying that for 2 years. But
now, putting together the set list, of course, it's just going to be a punch in the face of mad hits. How many songs and how long is your set on this tour? And of course, you'll play the new song Release, which just came out January 14th. But what's that look like? Do you put together a set list, or are you like, we know what the set is?
You know what? We got a set that works beautiful. People, the people get up, they get into it. You take them up, you take them down a little bit, take them all the way to the end, and throw in a couple new things. We have a set list all kind of worked out. We'll probably play for a full hour, and it'll be an hour full of all our biggest hits, and maybe throw in the new song for sure. And you could pretty much count on that from all the bands, because everybody's got some new stuff out. But you know what I found? If you don't hear the big hits, I personally I'm not that satisfied. I like to hear the hits. And I think the majority of the people in America like to hear the hits too. So you do have to give them the hits, and we're happy to do that. We'll give them hits, throw in the new one, maybe do an encore here and there. And we're just going to get up there and have fun.
Yeah, yeah. I believe everyone should play the hits, but the Rolling Stones, because the Stones' back catalog, deep cuts are so mind-boggling that if you went to a Stones show and you're like, whoa, man, you know what they played? You got the Silver, and then they went into, Slave, and you'd just be like, wow, because the Stones, man, it's just this massive catalog of insanity. So I say hits from all the bands except for Stones.
I'm with you, man. I'm sticking with you, buddy. Dean, you got a great idea there.
Yeah. Let me ask you, I actually met you years ago at Concrete Convention. You were with your brother. You have a brother, right?
Yeah, he passed away sadly, but my brother was very instrumental in my music career. He taught me how to do everything. He was a wonderful guy, wonderful brother to have.
I met you guys in LA at the Concrete Convention in an elevator. And
cool.
I remember he was like, yeah, I'm Mike's brother. I was like, oh, right on. It's so funny, full circle, getting to talk to you. I've loved your music forever. And I've talked to people this week about interviewing you, and we were all just blown away by just how cool it was to see different types of music on the bill. Bill Graham was one of those geniuses that would just put different types on, but to see you guys on your debut record on before Maiden and Scorpions and still killing it out there, it's just unreal, man.
It's funny because I've just uncovered a t-shirt from the old days, and we were actually billed above both those bands after a short while. Remember how it happened? We were doing We were at the bottom of the bill, and after about 8 months, they switched us over, and we were up top. And I remember seeing, and I look at it, I go Scorpions, and Iron Maiden they were below us on the bill, and then the headliner I think was Van Halen for that one. We did Texas Jam, we did all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And as the band got more popular, they just shifted us up, further up to the headline spot. It was crazy times, as I say, Gene.
Do you remember that Day in the Green? Because I'm obsessed with Day in the Green, so I always like to talk to people that played Day in the Green or the Yes Festival. Do you actually remember that? Because it was kind of that bill rolling around America. You did Anaheim Stadium. After that, you did up in Oregon, and that was popping around with different bands sliding in and out. But that was basically the core of it. Do you remember Bill Graham or any of that?
Absolutely, I remember. The one thing I really remember is the Anaheim show. I'll tell you why. We were in Vancouver briefly for a couple of days off, but a bunch of my friends that I hadn't seen in a while, we all got together, came over to my hotel. And because there was a whole bunch of us, we ended up moving to a bigger room. And this is back, once again, before cell phones. My road manager couldn't find me, so the whole band took off for the Anaheim show. I was in a giant area. We looked like a whole bag of puppies lying there, fucking hung over. And then somebody said, I thought you had a gig today. And I went, oh, what time is it? I had to make my way down to Anaheim. The first flight out of Vancouver was in a mail plane, a cargo plane, where I had to hang on to the mesh.
Really?
That was the kind of day that was.
Whoa.
Seattle to get onto a regular flight. There were no regular flights going at the right times. So I ended up having to rent a Learjet, and those aren't cheap. I asked the guy to speed up, and he says, if I go any faster, we're going to run out of fuel. And I went, holy shit. And finally they landed in Anaheim somewhere, John Wayne, I think. And the helicopter was right outside of the jet. And I'm going, this is going to cost me. This is going to cost me. And they pulled up, and when they landed in the parking lot of the Anaheim show, I had to get in the back of a police car and throw on the leather pants and get the shirt all ripped up and get the headband on. When I got to the place, I walked, the police car went right down to the back of the stage. I hopped out of the car and went, what are you boys waiting for? We got a show to do. And they almost wanted to kill me, right? Because, promoter wanted to put the next band on. You can imagine what was happening, right?
Oh my God. That's like $100,000 in travel.
Oh God, I'm still paying for it, Dean.
Yeah. Did you and Paul Dean ever have any kind of fallouts over the years, or it's just been a solid friendship and partnership?
Paul and I are kind of like the yin and yang, black and white kind of guys. He'll do something, and I won't I will say, I'd rather do this, and he'd say, well, let's do this, and then we'll do that. And so we try things, and sometimes we meet in the middle. Sometimes we do it his way. Sometimes we do it my way. But we've always had a respect for each other. So we've never really had any blowout. It's nice to be able to say that after 42 years hanging out with the guy. But we're very good friends, and we have a lot of respect for each other. And the whole band is really like that.
And do you guys both live in Vancouver?
Yeah, we both live in Vancouver.
And let's talk a little bit about the new record. I know you got the single out released, but you have a new record coming out?
Well, it is. We haven't had a chance to do the whole record.
Right.
We haven't had a chance to get together to write like we normally would write, but we're thinking about getting it together pretty soon. Do you think people nowadays can handle a whole record? People, they got such short attention spans because everything's so quick. Everything's fast. The news is out there. It happens. The hurricane happens. You hear about it 1 minute after the hurricane. Everything's always like so fast and so furious. It's like, I don't know. I think putting out a single every once in a while might be the way to go for a while.
I believe that in the TikTok world, everybody's got ADD and it's 1 minute and I'm moving on. I asked somebody recently if they watched the Beatles doc, which is probably one of the greatest things ever made by Peter Jackson. It's like 8 hours. And the guy said, it's just so long. And I'm like, yeah, Godfather's long. So is Apocalypse Now, but they're masterpieces. You take the ride. People don't want to take the ride. Like I don't hear any kids going on road trips with their family anymore. Are we there yet? It's just like they need to be teleported like Star Trek, just all right, we're there. I don't like this. This is boring, and move on. The internet and the phone has just definitely just ruined people's minds.
No, I'm totally. That's kind of what I'm saying. That's why when I tell you stories, I always take a second to remind people that's before cell phones, before the internet, and so you really had to take the trip. You really had to enjoy the journey. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Do you remember playing the Cow Palace? Because it was the giant venue in my town, San Francisco, and everybody played there. And I recently went back there and did a podcast with the people that ran the place. And I walked around in it. And as an adult, you're like, oh, it's not as big as I remember. It was 13,000, and you guys sold that out, by the time you start headlining. But do you remember that place at all? I know you played a million places, but it's pretty iconic. Absolutely. I remember the Cow Palace. We played there quite a few. Well, we played there a few times, once with Journey and once by ourselves for sure. It was that iconic place in the Bay Area. And, I always wondered why they called it the Cow Palace. Maybe you could enlighten me why they called it the Cow Palace.
Well, they did all the rodeos there and the livestock shows and everything, So one day it'd be just, horse shit in there and rodeo. And then they were telling me they would have a concert the next day and they'd have to kind of put down like jugs of like scent, like room scent to try to get rid of the cow shit smell. But once the people got in there and were smoking that old 70s Colombian and shit and fireworks were going off, that was a big deal with bands back then. Remember, people just be bringing fireworks, just throwing them all over the place.
That was nutty. No, those times were great. I wish we were still in those times, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The dangerous times with no phones and people were engaged. Like, holy shit, they played fucking Turn Me Loose. You lose your mind.
Right. No, it's great. We've always had concerts are really always so great. And I'm really we've been off for 2 years. You got to understand, Dean, we are like chomping at the bit to jump back out there and play. That may take a couple of shows to get the old legs back, but we're going to do it, and we're going to have as much fun as the audience, if not more. And I'm really looking forward to it, and so is the rest of the band. It's just been too long. This whole COVID thing is just getting so old. We gotta move on, man.
Yeah, it's crazy. What? How old are you?
I'm 67.
67, and all good there. Can you run? Good. Yeah, all good.
Got a sore ankle.
Yeah.
That's about it. That's not bad for 67 years of rock and roll. And the ankle got buggered up on the stage. I remember I had to play the concert at the show in San Diego, the big arena there. At the sound check, one of the stairs broke and I fell down and snapped my ankle. I went out to do the show that night. They said, "Can you do the show?" And I said, "I'll do the show." I went up with crutches to the front. I said, "Keep the lights off till I get out front." And then I threw the crutches in the pit. And the lights came on and the whole show went by. I didn't move around much that day. I had the broken ankle. And now it's, things like broken ankles come back and get you when you get a little older. So it's starting to ache a little bit, but I'll tape it up like the NFL guys do. And I'll be out there like a teenager.
Yeah. Before we get out of here, I'm a comedian. Are you a comedy fan?
You know what? I was going to ask you if you do your own shows. You're very fast. You quick wit. And you're funny. This has been an enjoyable time for me. Yeah, I'm a total comedy fan. As a matter of fact, I'm totally into it. Yeah, love it. I watch it all the time.
It's funny because they pitched me. They said, "Hey, REO and Styx are going out on tour with Loverboy," and I get the email and I immediately go, "Hey, can I talk to Mike Reno?" And then the other publicist came in and was like, "Oh, absolutely. Yeah." I don't have anybody on the show that I don't like. It's not one of those type of shows where it's like every week I just have some band on talk. It's got to be some band that really moved me in my life and inspired me in a way. And I think that the songwriting that you guys did, although they're giant hits and they're everywhere still to this day, they're still very, very underrated to me. They're right up there with Journey and Night Ranger and these people that had monster hits. That's not an easy thing to do. Most people, 99% of the people in the world can't write hits or a song, and you guys have a handful of them, and they're fantastic. The songs don't sound dated. The recordings are amazing. Those guys killed it. There's no weird dated reverbs or anything. You just put it on and it's there and it's smashing. So I got to thank you so much for doing the show. And I can't wait to see you guys when you come out. I'm definitely going to come down and see you.
Well, guess what? I'm going to look you up and start following you, and I want to see one of your comedy shows. So you're easy to find.
Oh, I'm easy to find. Dean Del Rey. And do you guys have an Instagram or anything, Loverboy?
I don't know if we do Instagram. That was a little too crazy for me. I don't want people to know what I'm doing on Tuesday.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, I'm easy to find, man. And you can hit your publicist up and email me. I come up to Vancouver a couple times here and there a year, and Seattle and everywhere. So it'd be great to just hang out with you and shoot the shit, man.
That's awesome, Dean. It's really been a pleasure, man.
Yeah. Right. Fantastic. Congrats on the tour. This is going to be a smasher. Talk about, it's going to be, look at REO Speedwagon, High Infidelity is one of the greatest records ever made for hit rock and roll back in that time. Gary Richrath was a monster. He's gone, of course, but and then Styx is just insane. And then you guys, it's just going to be like massive hits. It's like you're getting your money's worth, man.
I'm excited about going to it, even if I wasn't in the goddamn band.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it'll be great. Well, thank you. They got a new song out. It came out January 14th. It's called Release. They have an incredible greatest hits, tons of videos on YouTube that are fantastic. A lot of red leather pants out there, which I love. I still wear leather. I dig it. I think leather should be inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And it was great talking to you today, man. Have a fantastic weekend.
Thanks, Dean. You too, buddy.
All right. I'll see you later, man.
Peace out.
See you, bud.
All the time.
It's funny because they pitched me. They said, hey, REO and Styx are going out on tour with Loverboy. And I get the email and I immediately go, hey, can I talk to Mike Reno? And then the other publicist came in and was like, oh, absolutely. Yeah. I don't have anybody on the show that I don't like. It's not one of those type of shows where it's like every week I just have some band on talk. It's got to be some band that really moved me in my life and inspired me in a way. And I think that the songwriting that you guys did, although they're giant hits and they're everywhere still to this day, they're still very, very underrated to me. They're right up there with Journey and Night Ranger and these people that had monster hits. That's not an easy thing to do. Most people, 99% of the people in the world can't write hits or a song. And you guys have a handful of them and they're fantastic. The songs don't sound dated. The recordings are amazing. Those guys killed it. There's no weird dated reverbs or anything. You just put it on and it's there and it's smashing. So I got to thank you so much for doing the show. And I can't wait to see you guys when you come out. I'm definitely going to come down and see you.
Well, guess what? I'm going to look you up and start following you. And I want to see one of your comedy shows. So you're easy to find.
Oh, I'm easy to find. Dean Del Rey. And do you guys have an Instagram or anything, Loverboy? I
don't know if we do Instagram. That was a little too crazy for me. I don't want people to know what I'm doing on Tuesday.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, I'm easy to find, man. And you can hit your publicist up and email me. I come up to Vancouver a couple times here and there a year, and Seattle and everywhere. So it'd be great to just hang out with you and shoot the shit, man.
That's awesome, Dean. It's really been a pleasure, man.
Yeah. Right. Fantastic. Congrats on the tour. This is going to be a smasher. Talk about, it's going to be, look at REO Speedwagon, High Infidelity is one of the greatest records ever made for hit rock and roll back in that time. Gary Richrath was a monster. He's gone, of course, but and then Styx is just insane. And then you guys, it's just going to be like massive hits. It's like you're getting your money's worth, man.
I'm excited about going to it, even if I wasn't in the goddamn band.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it'll be great. Well, thank you. They got a new song out. It came out January 14th. It's called Release. They have an incredible greatest hits, tons of videos on YouTube that are fantastic. A lot of red leather pants out there, which I love. I still wear leather. I dig it. You know, I think leather should be inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And it was great talking to you today, man. Have a fantastic weekend.
Thanks, Dean. You too, buddy.
All right. I'll see you later, man.
Peace out.
See you, bud.